The words land clean and quiet in the middle of the Aldenmore Capital Anniversary Gala. 400 people. Crystal chandeliers. A string quartet playing something no one is listening to. And Senna Vale, standing in her floor-length gown at the center of the room, holding a champagne flute she hasn't sipped yet, looking at Ryan Aldos like he is a problem she waited too long to correct. "Break up with me," she says. Not a question. Ryan doesn't move. He has a glass of sparkling water in his hand because Senna once told him drinking at company events looks unprofessional, and he listened, and now he's standing here with water watching her announce the end of 3 years in front of the entire firm. "You're holding me back," she says. Her voice is perfectly even. "You're talented at the margins, the research, the models, the small work, but Ryan, you don't have the name for this room. You never will. And I need someone who does. Someone who does." Caius Dren steps out of the small crowd that has gathered, because 400 people have excellent social radar and they can smell blood, and puts a hand on Senna's shoulder like he's been waiting for exactly this cue. He has. He's the heir to Dren Capital. 32 years old. 3 magazine profiles. A smile that belongs on a building facade. "This doesn't have to be uncomfortable," Caius says, looking at Ryan with something between pity and boredom. Ryan looks at the water in his hand. He sets it down on the nearest table. He walks out. 400 people watch him go. No one says a word. The string quartet keeps playing. By Monday morning, the termination letter is already sitting on his desk. Official. Signed. HR processed before the weekend ended. 3 years of client acquisition, fund modeling, and 14-hour days at Aldenmore Capital, gone in a signature. The stated reason is performance misalignment. What it means is Senna is a senior partner and Ryan is not, and in that firm, the math is straightforward. He picks up the letter. He reads it once. He puts it back down. Then he picks up his phone and dials a number he's had saved for 2 years but never touched. The phone rings once. A man answers. Marin and Salith Asset Management. "How can I help?" "Tell Corvin Marin," Ryan says, "that Aldos is calling. And that his grandfather's account is finally open." Silence. Then, "One moment, please. Here's what nobody at Aldenmore Capital knew about Ryan Aldos, because Ryan never told them. His grandfather, Dale Aldos, founded Salith Infrastructure Partners in 1978, a modest land and utility holding firm that spent 40 years quietly acquiring building leases, utility rights, and municipal contracts in 3 of the city's most lucrative districts. The kind of firm nobody talks about because it doesn't need to. By the time Dale died 12 years ago, Salith held a silent majority position in Grayvale Properties Group, the largest commercial real estate holding company in the city. 41 buildings. 9 of them in the Central District. Dale left the account to Ryan directly. Not to Ryan's parents. Not to a trust administered by relatives. To Ryan. With one condition: it could not be accessed until Ryan had no job, no active income, no professional position of any kind, and no association with any firm in the city. Dale's lawyer explained it to Ryan when he was 19. He believed, the lawyer said carefully, that a man who still has something to lose will spend the money protecting what he has. He wanted you to have nothing left to protect before he gave you everything. Ryan spent 3 years at Aldenmore Capital wondering if his grandfather was brilliant or cruel. He has his answer now. Corvin Marin is 71 years old and has been managing the Aldos account since before Ryan was born. He meets Ryan at the firm's downtown office on Tuesday morning. Coffee. A leather chair. A file folder that Ryan suspects weighs more than most people's entire investment portfolios. Corvin slides it across the desk. Ryan opens it. The account value, $1.4 billion. 44 years of compounding. Reinvested dividends. Reinvested distributions from Grayvale. Reinvested everything because there was no one authorized to touch it. Ryan looks at the number for a long time. The Grayvale position, he says. 41% of Grayvale Properties Group, Corvin says. Technically a silent majority when combined with the Aldos Family Trust 6%. You own 47% of Grayvale, Mr. Aldos. Effectively you set the building policy for every property in their portfolio. Ryan turns a page. He finds a list of Greyvale's current commercial tenants. He finds, on the second page, in plain black text, Aldenmore Capital, 14th through 18th floors, Tower 1, Greyvale Central Plaza. Lease renewal, January. He turns another page. Dren Capital, 22nd floor, Greyvale Commerce Building. Lease renewal, March. He turns another page. Vale Financial Group, the firm co-founded by Senna's father, Aldrich Vale, which serves as Aldenmore Capital's primary silent backer, 3rd floor, Greyvale Meridian Tower. Lease renewal, January. Ryan closes the folder. He looks at Corvin. I'd like, Ryan says, to end my grandfather's silence. The first notice goes out on Wednesday. Greyvale Properties Group, acting on instruction from its silent majority stakeholder, issues a formal lease termination notice to Vale Financial Group. Effective January 31st, building management sites, strategic portfolio restructuring. No negotiation clause. Termination only. Aldrich Vale gets the notice at 9:14 a.m. By 9:16, he's calling Greyvale's management office. He is told that management is not authorized to discuss the restructuring decision and that all inquiries should be directed to the Stakeholders Council. He calls Greyvale's CEO directly. The CEO says, Aldrich, I can't help you. I genuinely cannot tell you more than what the notice says. Aldrich calls Senna. Something is wrong, he says. Senna calls Caius. Caius calls his family's portfolio manager. By noon, the second notice has arrived, this one addressed to Dren Capital. Same building. Same language. Same January deadline. The Dren family has held that office for 11 years. Caius's father, Reverend Dren, is on a board call when the notice interrupts his assistant's entry into the room. He holds the paper in his hand for 30 seconds without speaking. Find out who the silent majority stakeholder is, he says. His assistant comes back in 20 minutes. Aldous, she says. Reverend Dren goes very still. Ryan Aldous. His grandfather's account. He inherited it. He activated it 2 days ago. Revan stares at the window. Below him, 40 floors down, is the street where the old Solith Infrastructure Partners building used to stand before Greyvale absorbed it in 1991. Call his counsel, Revan says. He doesn't have counsel on file yet. Then find him directly. The third notice is quieter. It doesn't go to a building. It goes to Aldenmore Capital's board of directors, signed by Greyvale's legal team, informing them that effective January 31st, all 5 floors of Aldenmore's Greyvale Central Plaza lease will be terminated. In the same envelope, there is a second document, not a legal notice, just a letter. Ryan's name at the bottom. 3 sentences. The board reads it in emergency session Thursday morning. The chairman, Lev Vorin, reads the 3 sentences twice. He looks at the other 4 members. He looks at Senna Vale, who was invited to this session because she is a senior partner and because someone decided that was a good idea before they knew what the letter said. He's offering to extend the lease, Vorin says, with one condition. Senna says nothing. He wants his termination reversed. Official reinstatement. Full partner track. He can't do this, Senna says. He owns the building, Senna. She stands up. She walks out of the boardroom. By Thursday evening, the dominoes are falling in a very specific order. Vale Financial Group, Senna's father's firm, can't find alternative commercial space in the Central District on a 6-week timeline at their price point. Because Greyvale owns 12 of the 14 viable buildings. Aldrich Vale begins emergency negotiations with Marin and Solith. He is told, politely, that the stakeholder is not currently available for negotiations but that a meeting might be arranged. Dren Capital's portfolio manager pulls the family's current credit exposure and discovers that 2 of Dren Capital's primary debt instruments are held through a fund, a subfund of a subfund, that traces back to a Marin and Solith managed vehicle. Ryan doesn't own the debt. But he manages the vehicle. He could call the review. Caius Dren hasn't been to the office since Wednesday. He and Senna have had 3 arguments in 2 days. The first was about the notices. The second was about whose fault it was that nobody knew about Ryan's grandfather. The third was about the engagement announcement Caius's family had planned for the spring, which Revan Dren has now placed on indefinite hold because he does not want to announce a family merger with a woman whose actions apparently activated a $1.4 billion hostile stakeholder position. Senna's phone rings at 8:47 p.m. Thursday. It's a number she knows by memory because she dialed it for 3 years without thinking. She answers. Ryan. This is Corvin Marin, the voice says. Mr. Aldas's counsel. I'm calling to confirm that the meeting request has been received. Mr. Aldas is available Friday at 2 o'clock. The call ends. Friday. 2:03 p.m. A conference room at Marin and Salatha's downtown office. Ryan sits on one side of the table. Corvin beside him. A legal pad in front of Ryan that he doesn't look at. Across the table, Aldrich Vale, who flew back from a conference in Arnfeld to be here. Revan Dren, who looks like a man who hasn't slept. And Senna. She is wearing the same earrings she wore to the gala. Ryan notices. He doesn't react. Aldrich starts. He speaks for 4 minutes about the value of long-standing business relationships and mutual benefit and the complexity of commercial real estate timelines. Revan says 3 words, "Let's be reasonable," and then goes quiet. The room is waiting for Ryan to speak. Ryan says, "I don't want the offices." Silence. "What I want," Ryan says, "is to correct a record. Aldenmore Capital terminated my employment Monday morning for performance misalignment. That's incorrect. My performance metrics are on page 2 of the folder in front of you. 14 new client relationships in 30 months. Highest fund model accuracy rate in the quant team for the last 2 fiscal years. A retention rate on my client book of 96%. He pauses. "I want a written apology from the board. Published internally. I want my record corrected. I want the termination reversed in the HR system. I'm not returning to Aldenmore. I'm building my own firm. But I want the record clean." Aldrich and Revan look at each other. Aldrich says, "That's it." And, Ryan says, "A lease extension at current rates for all 3 buildings. 18 months. More silence. Revan says, "Done." Aldrich says, "Done." Senna doesn't say anything. She's been looking at the legal pad in front of Ryan. There's nothing written on it. It's blank. He didn't need notes for this meeting. He knew exactly what he wanted before he walked in the room. She opens her mouth once. She closes it. Ryan looks at her for the first time since Wednesday. He looks at her the way he looked at the glass of sparkling water at the gala before he set it down. Then he picks up his pen, uncaps it, and signs the lease extension agreement that Corvin slides in front of him. He stands up. He buttons his jacket. "My grandfather," he says, to no one in particular, believed in patience. He walks out. The written apology from Aldenmore Capital's board goes out the following Monday. Internal. Formal. It lands in the inboxes of all 212 firm employees. The stated reason for Ryan Aldas's termination has been revised. The record correction is noted. The board expresses regret for the error. 400 people at the gala saw Ryan walk out of that room without a word. 212 people at Aldenmore Capital read that apology on Monday morning. Some of them were at the gala. Ryan's firm, Aldas Capital Partners, opens its doors the following February. 12 employees. 14 clients in the first month, every one of them former Aldenmore relationships that followed him out the door. The office is on the 7th floor of Greyvale Meridian Tower. The same building where Vale Financial Group had their offices before the lease notice. Ryan now owns the floor below them. The engagement between Senna Vale and Caius Dren is announced, eventually, in late spring. It appears in the city's business papers as a 1-paragraph notice. No profile. No magazine spread. Caius's father attends the wedding. He shakes Ryan's hand at an industry dinner 3 months before it, in the lobby of Greyvale Central Plaza. "I heard about your new firm," Revan says. "Congratulations." Ryan says, "Thank you." That's all. He doesn't mention the gala. He doesn't mention the water glass. He doesn't mention the 3 years of sparkling water at company events because Senna said drinking looked unprofessional. He has a whiskey now. He's paying for his own. Senna calls one more time. It's a Tuesday in March, 11 months after the gala. She calls from a number he doesn't have saved. He picks up because he doesn't recognize it. Ryan, she says. He says, who is this? A pause. It's Senna. He thinks about it for exactly 2 seconds. Okay, he says. What do you need? She starts to explain something about a professional reference for a board application, an industry committee, a process that requires someone who knew her earlier work before she was senior partner, and the names she's given are giving pushback for reasons she doesn't say out loud, and Ryan was there for the early work, and... No, he says. Ryan. I'm in a meeting, he says. He isn't. But he hangs up, and that's the same thing. Outside his office window, 41 buildings. 12 of them lit up against the city sky. His grandfather's name on none of them. His grandfather's work in all of them. Ryan turns back to his desk. He has a fund model to finish. He goes to work.